they said, ow! And I said, what? And they said, did you know the Samsung Q990F is indeed the world's greatest home cinema kit, all in one jobby thingy, sort of in one as is a kit. And I said, well, we don't accept things like that on this channel. We have to delve into it. Delve into it. And we have to look at it in minute detail. So do you know what? A couple of months ago, I went and bought this soundbar that they are saying is like the real thing. It's the real thing. What? Well, there's a problem already. They're saying it's like the real thing, 11.1.4, but how can it be? It's either the real thing or it's not the real thing. If it's not the real thing, it's an imitation of the real thing, and it can't be like the real thing, or can it? Huh? It's already overcomplicated, so I'm going to try and simplify it. I can feel a long video coming on.
That's what she said.
This is the update to the handily named Samsung Q990D. I guess there's any, I don't know. I mean, I'm not that into the world of soundbars, but I did a bit of research before I bought this big boy. Oh. Apparently the biggest difference between the old version D and the new version F, and is there an E floating about somewhere, or is it just an error? Yes, indeed. The biggest difference, of course, is not one, but two actual drivers, not a passive. Two drivers on the subwoofer. It's called a subwoofer. And that means it's basically half the size of the old subwoofer. In my book, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Because it fits in with a normal living room. So why don't they always do that, Al? I don't know. Did you not ask them? Well, so apparently there was problems with vibrations on the old one. I don't know. I didn't have it. So we've got a subwoofer now with two drivers, which means push, pull. If you can see, if I push on there, it goes there. So they're in opposite phase. One goes in, one goes out. They cancel each other out, and it should get a better experience. And it will, obviously, you've got more surface, double the surface area. So it's like having a bigger driver, but not quite. A bigger driver, of course, will go a bit deeper. But hey, did you know if you have two opposing drivers, you would expect about a 6 decibel gain? But if you had two separate subwoofers, you'd expect about a 3 decibel gain. And then you put them together, and that would basically be one subwoofer anyway. Well, isn't it interesting? Because you're probably thinking, 20 minutes to tell us absolutely nothing about the soundbar. You ain't wrong there. You ain't wrong there. This is why I'm never going to be a hit on YouTube. I just tell you stuff that I find interesting. So the biggest deal to me was the subwoofer. And that was the reason I thought, well, it could finally fit in with my life. Oh. And I had a go a couple of months ago and been quite happy with it. But there's a lot of hype out there. There's a lot of stuff being told about it. And I thought, we go through it. Do you know why? Because I got a YouTube channel. So, and I paid the money. Well, here's the thing. Depending on where you go and where you get information, it's either one of the best or it is the best home cinema kits around 1,500 quid or $1,500. Well, that's a bit pricey, but in the UK, you can get this for nearer 800 quid. Below 800 quid, I even heard someone said they got a £400 cashback. But that can't be right. But that can't be right. Surely. But, yeah, about 800 quid is about right for this. 1,500 quid, well, of course, they're going to have to tell you it's one of the greatest things since the slicing of the bread. So, did we go, well, if I've got it in the notes, we'll come back to this later. Just know that it's not all pluses, but there's a lot of pluses. Having two opposing drivers, you've got a much smaller unit than you would have had. But it's like everything else in life. There's no such thing as a free lunch. So, Al, just tell us about because I've already lost about 80% of the people who've tuned in for the first time. Got no idea what's going on. It's going to be, if you tune in for the first time, it'll be a long video, but we will get there in the end. Okay, so what is it, Al? It is here's the thing. They're saying it's an 11.1.4 Dolby Atmos. Just know it basically decodes everything you're going to need to decode, even Samsung's own Eclipse codec. and obviously Dolby Atmos and all the ones below it, and again DTS X and all the ones below it. So it basically covers everything, including Dolby Atmos. If you don't know, I'm sure there's nobody tuned in who doesn't know what Dolby Atmos is, but obviously if you didn't, Atmos being object-oriented, 128 channels, and they can place stuff above your head. That sounds really good, doesn't it? It sounds good on a proper system. But so we'll get onto that. They're claiming 11.1.4. 11. That means 11 main drivers, 0.1 one subwoofer, and 0.4 4 height channels, 4 height speakers. But as normal in the world of marketing, they're playing fast and loose. So I'm going to get. So they say 23 speakers in all. And you're saying, well, how does that even work out? 11.1.4. I'm going to tell you that now. Just know they advertise this as 756 watts in total, 300 watts to the subwoofer. Of course, you can make watts say anything, and that's probably peak. I didn't see it say RMS. Maybe it is RMS. That'd be a lot of watts. But I don't think it's a 700 watt by having listened to it. So, but it's probably peak. And if you're not playing, but you've got it on, this is going to go through 41 watts, which is not. It's not small. It's like having a light bulb, but a strong light bulb on, and when you're actually not doing anything, it's just no. Well, it's going to turn off automatically anyway. We'll get onto that. Just to go over quickly stuff. You may want to know. On the top, you've got is that the power? No, you've got a Bluetooth pairing button, but you can do all this in the app. The app for this is the Samsung SmartThings app, which is what you really want to be using with this. Otherwise, you're going to have a world of pain. But you've got, I don't know what that. Oh yeah, so we got the volume up, volume down, and that must be the power there, and that's the Bluetooth there. But I don't actually use the controls on the soundbar, and because that would be ridiculous. On the back, you've got 3 HDMIs. One of them is your eARC, so in and out, and the other two are HDMI in ins. You can pass through 4K 120 hertz and actually 8K at 60 hertz via the soundbar. That's handy. It's got an optical connection. They say it's low latency. Does it have auxiliary? Can't remember. There is your power that goes in there, and I think it's got an auxiliary input now, which is a bit weird. Anyway, but and of course it will do Bluetooth and it will do wireless. Let's go through it in order. So I wanted to talk about first of all why. And I will show you what it sounds like and all that, blah, blah, blah. If you stick with me, but you're probably going to skip through anyway, so I'm going to have a cup of tea. If you listen to the forums, they will tell you, wow, it's like having a fantastic home cinema kit. It's the top notch. I'm going to skip to the end and say, it's a really nice home cinema kit, but it ain't a proper experience that you're going to get in a cinema, or even proper separates with proper height channels. Just know this is going to sound like a piece of kit that's trying to do pseudo surround, which is, if you understand what I mean, it's going to sound pretty decent, but it ain't going to sound like proper full immersive all round you that you would think by the 11.1. How do they get to the 11.1.4? That would be one center channel. So you've got 2 woofers and a tweeter. You've got 3 of those arrays. So you've got a left and right array and a center array. There's 9 speakers already. So each array is 2 woofers and a tweeter. Then you've got on the ends another 2 drivers. And they are meant to be your wide front and your listening left and right. Well, clearly, both of those are in the wrong place. So, right at the end, wide left and right would be forward of the soundbar. It would be, remember, it's trying to form a circle around you. The left and right, wide front, left and right, slightly forward, and then listening position left and right is right by your side. Is what's that? 90 degrees. 90 degrees to you. So clearly, what they are trying to do is make use of reflections and psychoacoustics to make it sound like. But it's a long way from the actual thing. And then you're going to get your rear left and right. They'll be in the right position. But you'll also get your wide rear, left and right, which would be slightly forward of that. And of course, they're in exactly the same position as the wide left and right. And then of course, you've got 4 upward firing drivers, which would literally be in your ceiling, but they're actually on the speakers themselves. So clearly a long way from being height channels. So we've got 2 upward firing drivers, and then the other 2 are on the speaker. And the speaker is trying to make use of, so the rear, front and right are the front drivers, and then on the side, left and right, on the side are what would normally be forward of that, slightly forward, wide rear are left and right. And of course, on the speaker itself, upward firing drivers, trying to replace the height. I'm trying to say, in my opinion, I've seen every channel say it's fantastic, it sounds like an Atmos. It doesn't. Does it sound good? Yes, it sounds really good. You know, is it one of the best soundbars? I don't know. I haven't listened to that many soundbars. Certainly sounds better than the last one I had, was only an all-in-one soundbar, the MS750, I think it was. And it sounds way better than that. And it's nice having rear. So, but does it surround me in a circle, completely envelope me and hear things up there? No. If there's helicopters flying, I hear it. It's slightly firing up, but it's not coming from the ceiling. It's coming from the speakers. I'm so wanted. So, I mean, that's the crux of why I've started this video. I've had this for a couple of months. I could have done it a long time ago, but I didn't. I thought it was going to be hefty work, and it is going to be hefty work, and I don't know how many people will watch it, but it doesn't really matter. If you only watch this part of the section, just know, as there should be someone on YouTube giving it to you real. And I've not seen anybody say, this is a nice surround sound bit of kit, but it don't sound like Atmos, and it doesn't completely surround you in a 360-degree bubble of sound. No, 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 it doesn't. In fact, let's get straight into that. I mean, this is just a quick demo of some of the sound you get from this. This is Edge of Tomorrow, which has got a lot of helicopters and a lot of height information there. And I don't get really a sense that it's... Obviously, a lot of this will depend on your room. They're relying on the fact that you've got reflective surfaces directly above on the ceiling and to the sides where it's firing off to the side. And then it will psychoacoustically make you a little bit more, but it still won't be like a proper, separate, true Atmos system. I'm going to show you standard mode versus adaptive mode. Standard mode is how it was recorded. Adaptive mode, if you can hear the difference, is they're up mixing and against my TV.
1 minute! What is he saying? Nance! What is he saying? On my mark! Stand by to deploy! Acting the ship is evacuating! Bust your hole with my boot heel!
I'm trying to save you. We're getting slaughtered. You need to get us off this beach. We have to go. This dropship is about to explode. We have to go now. Wait. Come on! on! The ship is going to explode!
Switching to adaptive, the balance switches to a brighter mode. We're losing a little bit of bass as some of those effects are remixed to the extra speakers. No surprise, even though these are reasonable TV speakers, you've got no bass. 100 hertz and down is gone. And in terms of cinema, that's exactly where you want your bass. 100 hertz and below, and it's relying on a high-end boost for clarity, overlaying the original film soundtrack. You can see standard mode is the most balanced mode. Adaptive mode is pushing the highs a bit. Overall, it's pretty balanced throughout the mids and the highs. And in my boomy room, we're getting a significant bass gain.
It has a really nice balanced sound. It does that holy grail thing that no matter what you are listening to, whether it's just a bit of dialogue or a complicated scene with 128 channels, objects, channels and all that, firing and lots of height stuff, and you don't lose a dialogue. That's really, really rare. And it's not doing it by boosting the where you would get your speech anyway. It's a really balanced speech. I tested this in, I did measurements in, I'll get onto that. I got completely out of order. I had the whole thing planned out, but you're forcing my hand. When I did my frequency sort, well, I got me, I'll just tell you. I did it in stereo mode, but it was surprisingly balanced. Then it must sound good in music. No, in music mode, it does not sound good. It still sounds dull, but you can upmix it, and anything upmixed for 5 minutes sounds good. And then if you really got an ear for it, you will hear all the problems with it. I wouldn't buy this if you're mainly listening to music. And I listen to Dolby Atmos music via Tidal. You can Tidal connect via Wi-Fi. Will work. This it's not fantastic. You know why? It's not true Atmos. It's not placing them exactly where it should be placed. It's doing it. It's little trickery. And depending on your room, it will work better or not quite as well, but it will never sound like a true cinema kit. Some of the comments I see from reviews are so over the top, it's ridiculous, almost as though it's marketing, saying it's fantastic, it's great, it's like a cinema experience. No. But it is a really nice experience. Just say, in terms of that crossover, yeah, it seems to be between the subwoofer and the arrays, about 140 hertz, somewhere around there. The subwoofer itself is rolling off from below 30 hertz. So, we said, it's still a small driver sub. It's not going to get the low end, but there's enough low end there to do cinema reasonable justice. Because I'm trying to tell you, it's not a proper home cinema separate system. They would be laughing at a roll-off at 30 hertz. 10 hertz below is where they're going for a proper cinema kit. And it's basically active between 30 hertz and 100 hertz. But the rest of the system, the left and right arrays, pretty well balanced. There's a bit of a wicked dip, and that's probably my room. Also, got to take into account, this has what they call BassFit Sound Pro. So leave that on, it will start calibrating your room and do some dynamic EQ to make it more balanced. So obviously that was already set. I did the recording, I do my measurements in a separate room. But it was still very balanced, just know. So I don't know if that high-end dip is actually there or it's supposed to be balancing something in my room, but obviously it's home cinema, not too much to worry about, around 12 kilohertz. We'll talk about those later. So we've had to listen to how it sounds. Pretend you're a reviewer, Al. Yeah. Well, I'm just going to sit down, as you can see. I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. Well, I kind of got a clue, but I don't get organised. I haven't got the patience to sit down and get organised. I have to say, it supports just about every codec, but it's way better with actual Dolby Atmos, even taking into account the upmixing, which I'm going to get onto in a minute. Way better, Dolby Atmos 7.1 point whatever. Obviously, the objects will be embedded, but then it really comes alive. But normal 5.1 stereo, even stereo mix, it doesn't have that magic. But there's magic there when you play actual full Dolby Atmos. What you normally get, the 7.1 and plus the height. Then it comes alive. It supports wireless Dolby Atmos. If you've got a Samsung TV, I don't have a Samsung TV, so that means you don't need the HDMI cable. You can connect wirelessly from your soundbar to your TV. And it does. I haven't got a Samsung TV. I've got a Sony TV. I mean, they're better. But Samsung have the Q Symphony, so then it will also make use of the speakers in the telly to well, I assume give you more of the center channel. I hear some people saying it's quite hit and miss. Some people like it, some people don't. You should know, it comes with Alexa built in, and it works with Google Home, Google Cast, AirPlay, Spotify, and Tidal Connect. It's got Wi-Fi, obviously. It's got Bluetooth 5.3. It has its own on the speak on the calibration. The listening bits are on the soundbar itself. I would say it was almost a night and day difference actually. From it was all over the place when I didn't have it enabled. Then I enabled it, give it some time to go through its calibration, over a period of time, and we ended up with a very balanced sound really. It could be my room. My own issue, it does seem to be a hole somewhere around the 100 to 200 hertz region, and it can be quite noticeable. Especially, so you can hear the sub as a nice kick, around the 30, 40, 50 hertz mark. But sometimes it could be almost one notey because there seems to be bits missing. But it could be my room. My room is quite boomy. My living room, forgive me. I also found this quite directional. It's playing down just past, up to 150 hertz, but it's mainly playing 30 hertz to 100 hertz. It shouldn't be too directional, but I found it quite directional. I ended up having it placed below the telly in the center. Otherwise, there are times when it's quite obvious. Some of those low notes are coming from the sub somewhere else, and it's quite off-putting. But I guess you need to listen for it. It acts as a smart things hub. Basically, it does all the codecs, including Eclipse, which is Samsung's own development partnership with Google. It's quite weighty. The soundbar itself, they say 8.3 kilos. I measured it at 8 kilos. The soundbar, so that was a subwoofer. The soundbar itself, 7.3 kilos and 3.4 kilos for the rear speakers. So there's some hefty weight in it. So they say the older sub, which I've not had, which is twice the size, has a bit more punch, but this is a bit more weight in the low end. They say, I don't know, but they say a lot of things that I really can't agree with. I did some measurements. I'll just quickly go over what I found when I measured it in stereo mode. I talked about the crossover, and it's basically a 30 to 100 hertz subwoofer. They've got a night mode. It seems to try and fool you a bit, because when you hit night mode, you get a decibel cut, not 1 decibel, you get a few decibel cut all over anyway. It goes quieter, so you could literally do that with the volume button itself. When you allow for that, or what it's actually doing is basically dropping. It's basically a tilt EQ from about 500 hertz and down. That's all night mode is. Space cut. So a lot of these things are not as clever as they would like you to think, but they're making you think it's clever because it's just overall a volume cut, as though you couldn't do that yourself. That was the movies. The bass enhancement, well, that seems to be, again, just basically boosting bass from about 150 hertz down. So basically boosting, and you've got that control anyway in the app, so that seemed a bit of a nonsense to me. The woofer, the volume control does seem to basically be from 100 hertz down when you use. I'm going to get onto the app in a second. Just going over what I found myself. The voice enhancement is basically another tilt EQ from around 200 hertz. Is going to drop a little bit of bass, and 200 hertz above is going to boost the mids and the highs. Again, nothing clever in that, is there? All things you could do with the EQ, but hey, you've got one button. They call it voice enhancement. Actually, that's quite lazy, what they've done there. That's a pure tilt EQ, and that's really lazy, nothing clever. I know in the thing they talk about AI and all that, but when you actually look at what they're doing, it seems a bit dumb. I talked about the night mode, the crossover. I told you to me it's quite balanced. I measured it as being balanced. We've already gone through that. By the way, the only bit of information you're going to get off this, I assume if you haven't got a Samsung TV, is that little LCD there, which they've had for years and years. That's unbelievable that they haven't upgraded that. And the only so I tell you the only useful thing I get from that little LCD there, if you can even see it, is when it actually tells me we're getting proper Dolby Atmos. That's the only time it kicks in with something useful. Otherwise, it's really bad. A lot of soundbars will tell you exactly what you, especially if you're bit streaming, it will tell you exactly what codec the movie or whatever, well, it'll be moving it, is playing with. That can be quite handy to know if there's, if it's remixing or something that, if you've got your settings wrong on the telly or something. It's really useful to know that. Samsung, for some reason, in their wisdom, never allowed you to do that. I'm going to connect. You got your volume. It tells me what source is coming input. I've got my volume control. And so, obviously, first of all, we go into the sound modes. This, again, is quite confusing depending where you get information from. Samsung do not make it easy for you to understand what the modes do. Standard mode means whatever it was originally mixed as is exactly what it will be playing as long as it supports it. If it's stereo, it will play the left and right array. If it's 5.1, it will do the equivalent 5.1 with each speaker, and if it's 7.1.4, whatever, it will do the equivalent exactly if it can do it. But if you've got multi-channel, and because it supports virtual upmixing as well for objects and stuff, it will make use of all the drivers in the speaker. So if you've got multi-channel, because it's not clear, you've got surround, you've got adaptive, but if you hit adaptive, they say that's the one to use when it's already proper multi-channel input, and then it will do upmixing, and basically a lot of the rear effects and stuff basically get a bit louder. But what I've always found with everything, whether it's Bluetooth speakers or home cinema kit, upmixing always tends to end up being brighter for whatever reason. And I always end up hearing, it's good for 5 minutes, and then I hear all the issues with it. I tend not to use the upmixing, but if you want it a bit louder, and you want to feel surrounded all the time, then go for adaptive. And I know a lot of people do. Me personally, I prefer to leave it as it was originally mixed and standard. But they say if you've got a stereo input and you want to upmix it, go for the surround. It ain't clear. It's not even clear. You've got to really search for the information. It's not even clear in the thing itself. Then you've got, of course, game mode. And what does game mode do? Ultimate gaming sound. Level up your game experience. Hear the roar of the sports car on the open road and blah blah. It's all configured automatically. In other words, it's more upmixing, game oriented. You've got an equalizer if you want to use it, and so you can do a custom, or you can use their presets for that. I leave it on normal because it is pretty balanced, actually, surprisingly so. I've got SpaceFit Sound Pro on. I found that work really well, from a clearly unbalanced sound to a pretty balanced sound. As I said, it's doing that rare feat that I never ever have to adjust the center channel. It's always in balance no matter what's happening. Active voice amplifier, I've not used that. It seems to do little things. It's supposed to analyze what's going on in the back, and if it needs to, it will up some of the dialogue. But a lot of these things I found are quite dumb, and they're not as clever as they make it sound. You got your advanced sound settings, voice enhancement. Well, I already went through what I found. So I've got the only one I've got ticked as virtual. If I do fancy doing some upmixing and going into surround or the adaptive, it adds something like Virtual X and stuff. It's a lot cleverer with its upmixing. It can recognise what certain things are and knows where to place them. This was confusing. It seems moderate bass, or does it mean moderate bass? Moderate bass. Why don't they just say turn subwoofer on or off? So if you don't want to use your subwoofer and you just want it as like a normal all-in-one soundbar, well, it will still work with the rear speakers. I should have said before, they're all wireless. They all require a power lead, but only a power lead, and they connect wirelessly to the soundbar itself. The soundbar does, not the soundbar. The subwoofer does, and the rear speakers do flawlessly. So they will go into standby when they don't need to, and they connect every time. I've had absolutely, a couple of months I've had this no issues at all with the wireless connection between the soundbar and the other speakers. But if you go moderate bass, it basically turns off the subwoofer, so all the bass is now coming from the soundbar itself, but you're going to lose some deep ends. But it's some things can sound a little bit better, but it seems to fill in the hole that I hear when I've got the subwoofer on around 100 and 200 hertz. Did I measure it? I think I did. But I think it will go down to about 70 hertz, and then you've got your roll off. So it's not like having the subwoofer on. So it's basically a cut in the real low end, and that's what it does. It switches off the subwoofer. You can adjust the level of all of these, but I found it's a bit weird depending on what it's playing. Some of the speakers do not equate to what you think they will. I've not really used it. Once you've got it set up properly, I've not really needed to use it. You can adjust the audio sync if you need to. So now they call it, again, confusing. They call it a woofer. We know it as a subwoofer. These are woofers. So if I go into the woofer control, I've got it on level, and you get a pretty good kick on 0. You could actually go up 6 dB. As what I'm saying, they got bass enhancements and they're all sorts of control for the subwoofer. But at the end of the day, you can go -12 and basically turn it off that way. For most people, when you don't want a big boom, -6, as you can see, that's probably why they've got the marker there. Makes it very reasonable. And if you want real proper cinema kick, you'll go for 0. But you can tame, if you're worried about with neighbours, when they're in, when they're not in. You can absolutely tame the subwoofer when you've got it connected. You can have it very subtle, or you could have it full boom. I did my own ears in just then. Or you can have it turned off anyway. As I said, hit moderate bass. Basically, that will turn off the subwoofer, and the bass will come through the soundbar itself, and of course, it won't go anywhere near as deep. So I think that's basically everything. Okay, got through that. As I said, these are wireless. You only have to stick the power leads into them. I put some other notes down as a conclusion. I don't know why I bother with notes. So all over the place. So the subwoofer is clearly a win for most people, who want to minimise the space these things are taking up. I mean, that's a really nice, subtle subwoofer in it. For the kick it gives out, that's quite impressive. But you are losing low end. It's rolling off completely from 30 hertz and down. And then for people who are serious about the home cinema, that's a no-go right there. So just know, when they are telling you this is absolutely fantastic, that's what I'm saying all the time. It's absolutely incredible. It's not incredible. It's a really nice piece of kit. But I wouldn't want to pay $1,500 or something, what they're asking for this. But at 800 quid, it's still a lot of money. But it was well worth it because it's a compact system. But it doesn't sound to me like I'm sitting in a room full of true Atmos speakers. They're not placed where they should be. And of course, the height, they're absolutely not even above your... Well, they can be above your ears depending on where you put it. But it's unlikely you're going to put this above your ears. Yeah, my placing... I've seen people say... So if you look at the manuals and everything, they will tell you to tow these in between, 130 and 90 degrees or something. I found actually straight on, but only a tiny bit of toning, less than they would tell you. Otherwise, it's too directional. Otherwise, I can place it right to the speaker itself. But if I tow it out a bit, then it makes it a bit wider. It's not quite as directional. I can't single point source, as they would say. So that's how I found it worked best. So music was not that. Look, it's pleasant, it's nice, it's great. But is it going to replace a decent speaker? No, not in a million years. It was a bit boring actually. Even Dolby Atmos was not impressive on this, I have to say, because it just wasn't. I don't know. I guess maybe the upmixing, it doesn't handle music quite as impressively, and of course, it doesn't place the channels where they would be in an actual Dolby Atmos system. I've written down no height to the field. I do not get a sense of the height. I'm reading all the time, and it's a sense of height. How could it possibly be a sense of height? For most people, all of these height channels would be below. Just because it's firing up doesn't make it sound like a height channel. There's a reason they tell you to put it in the ceiling when it's firing down. It's the actual opposite of what they're trying to kid you can replace. The only time it will get some of that effect is if you place it near the ceiling and you're getting the benefits of reflection. Yeah, I think SpaceFit Pro calibration is a must, was for me anyway. The very poor display. Years they've had it. What is their problem? Not great with music. That's basically it. We got through it in the end. I don't know if I missed out. I know it's not the slick sort of review we find, but you know, I couldn't even try to. I thought when I have a listen to what other people are saying, I couldn't even sit through it because it's absolute nonsense. I mean, they don't even show you how to actually set. I'm not showing you how to set it up. Ain't got the room to go to walk around, but I kind of give you a sense where you put them. But most people don't even tell you how to set this up properly. Nobody is saying, don't expect this to actually sound like an actual Dolby system. It won't. I mean, what is the why are you still talking now? Well, obviously you don't know me. Let's have a look. The Samsung Q990F. What happened to the E anyway? What happens if I put in E? Let's have a look. 990E. Oh, there is an E. Is there? Well, there just wasn't one. But it seems like there wasn't one. It's strange, isn't it? Maybe it was an error. We'll see what the marketing says for this. Our most cinematic soundbar. Blah, blah, blah. So, for fully immersive surround sound. But it doesn't. It's really, I mean, it still sounds like surround sound that I've been hearing for decades, to be honest. In the comfort of your own home, hear every on-screen action amplified with individually tuned speakers, all optimized. And the pictures are actually of it firing up and firing down. No. £800 is, I would say, is about where it should be. And if you're paying £1,500, well, I hope you're happy, and a lot of people are. I mean, they're saying they're happy. And it's all about being happy. I hope you're happy with a 5-hour-long video. I don't know. This seemed a good idea when I first did it, and now I just feel, did I actually say anything useful? I don't know. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again.
What the f was that?
It comes from China.
My speaker's got deep bass, balanced mids, and a bright high.
Yes, mine sounds exactly the same.